This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. St. Catherine businessman charged with murder and illegal possession of firearm. A St. Catherine businessman has been charged with murder and illegal possession of firearm and ammunition. He is 32-year-old Heron Douglas of Nugent Street in Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Douglas was implicated in the September 2019 killing of Steve Bryan, otherwise called Yellow, in Brayton, Greater Portmore in the parish. According to police reports, Bryan was among a group of people tending to livestock at approximately 7:40 p.m. when he was pounced upon by Douglas, who shot him multiple times. He was pronounced dead at hospital. Evidence collected resulted in Douglas being listed as wanted for Bryan's killing. An arrest warrant was subsequently prepared. Douglas was taken into custody on Monday, May 30, 2022, where the charges were laid against him. He is now awaiting a court date. Rural gangsters killing competitors for control of US $1 billion in lottery scam proceeds, says Chang. The changing criminal landscape in Jamaica has seen a sharp 53% rise in murders in the four western parishes of Police Area 1, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and Hanover, and is the result of a fight over US $1 billion in lottery scamming money flowing into that section of the country. This was stated by Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang during his contribution to the sectoral debate in the House of Representatives on June 1. More formally referred to as advance fee fraud, lottery scamming is fueling a rise in murders in deep rural areas as the change in criminal landscape presents a new headache for the government and the law enforcement agencies. Chang described the development as an emerging major crisis while warning that Jamaica's democracy was at risk. The challenge with advance fee fraud is that it is a white-collar job, Chang noted. He said it was peculiar to see white-collar crime associated with a high level of killings. The security minister cited that white-collar criminals have no base, they are mobile, and present a more challenging task for the police to intercept or apprehend. Chang shared that local law enforcement agencies were working with their international partners, particularly in North America, where the victims are being extorted. We have made progress, but hundreds of people are involved, he said, while pointing out that dozens of scammers have been apprehended and some extradited. According to Chang, who is also Deputy Prime Minister, it is alleged that US $1 billion flows into Jamaica each year through this illicit source. That's a huge amount of money, and it provides a risk to the stability of our state because it not only buys guns that kill people and undermine and corrupt institutions, and indeed what is not yet known is its impact on the economy, because $1 billion is a huge amount of money. He pointed to the changing patterns in the inter-gang violence that accounts for the sharp increase in the homicide rate, explaining that gangs involved in extortion, drug dealing, turf control, and petty thievery will have a high incidence of community killings, which non-tactical policing can deal with, as now appears to be happening in sections of the corporate area. On the other hand, gangs involved in advance fee fraud and the transshipment of drugs tend to avoid community petty crimes but indulge in targeted killing of their competitors, Chang said. He told the House that this was evident in Area 1, which has seen the highest increase in killings. They use contract killers and are scattered in small groups in deep rural areas. They operate wherever cell phone connectivity is available, he said. Chang pointed to year-to-date crime statistics which show that Area 4, which covers most of the corporate area, is experiencing 70 fewer murders or a 32% decline over the corresponding period in 2021. Here we can see the huge impact that hotspot policing, the use of technology, and effective analysis are having in the urban areas, he said. On the flip side, Area 1, which covers the four western parishes, is seeing 70 more murders or a 53% increase for the similar period. This is reflecting the significant shift of criminal activities to the rural areas where the use of hotspot policing and the technology are far less effective. As a result, controlling the criminal violence in the deep rural spaces presents some challenges, Chang said. Rick's Cafe CEO freed of RNM breaches. Chief Executive Officer of Rick's Cafe, Thomas Martin, was today freed of breaching the Disaster Risk Management Act. Martin was charged for breaching COVID-19 protocols on May 27 last year. He was freed after the parish judge Tamara Green upheld a no-case submission by Queen's Counsel Peter Champagny and attorney at law Javid Grant, who referred to a number of irregularities in the Crown's case. The lawyers argued that the prosecution had failed to make out a case against Martin. "I am happy that I have been vindicated and the justice system has worked," Martin said after he was acquitted. He also commended his lawyers for the great skill and care they displayed in representing him. "I reaffirm my commitment to Rick's Cafe, which has a long and rich history as an enviable attraction center, not just in Jamaica but internationally," Martin said. The prosecution had led evidence at the trial in the Westmoreland Parish Court that the police, acting on information, went to Rick's Cafe in Negril, Westmoreland on May 27 last year and observed that the bar was in operation. It was reported that several COVID-19 rules were not being observed at the establishment. The incident took place at the time when the party series Mocha Fest was being hosted by Rick's Cafe. After the Crown closed its case, the defense lawyers submitted that Martin could not be liable for any alleged breaches because he was not on the property when the police visited the location. The defense lawyers pointed out that a prosecution witness had confirmed that Martin was not on the property when the police arrived. Champagny suggested that there was obviously an indecent haste at the time to appease the public's sentiments without regard for proper procedure and the investigation. Champagny, in calling for the judge to enter a verdict of acquittal, pointed out that Martin would not have had a mental element to establish guilty knowledge of any alleged breaches. "Don't let them make criminals out of teachers," says Mushet High principal. Presidential candidate for the Jamaica Teachers Association, Leighton Johnson, is calling for teachers to resist the Jamaica Teaching Council bill, which he declares will turn educators into criminals if passed. Johnson, who is the principal of Mushet High School, lashed the proposed legislation while addressing today's annual general meeting at the JT's St. James Parish Association, which was held at the St. John's Methodist Church in Montego Bay. "We must stand resolute against the bill in its current form. It will make criminals out of teachers. That is untenable and we cannot allow that to happen," declared Johnson. "We cannot sit by and let them make criminals out of teachers," he continued. He charged that teachers should also show solidarity in tackling other issues facing the profession, including compensation befitting their qualifications. The Jamaica Teaching Council bill, which is currently under review before a joint select committee of Parliament, has sparked controversy due to concerns that it could eradicate a significant portion of Jamaica's educators due to its definition of a teacher and the requirements for qualifications. It defines a teacher as a person who, having been admitted to an educational teaching program duly recognized in the country where the person is qualified, has successfully completed a bachelor's degree in education or its equivalent, or alternatively a first degree with a postgraduate diploma in education, and thereby satisfies the qualifications to be registered as a teacher under the Act. Court gives a government deadline to implement overtime system for police force. The government has been given until March 31, 2023 to implement a proper software system to efficiently capture and calculate overtime hours for members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Today's Supreme Court decision did not impose any requirement on the government to pay any money to JCF members except for legal costs. The Jamaica Police Federation had taken the government to court over its failure to implement a proper system and to pay cops for working in excess of the agreed 40-hour work week. The Federation had contended that it is owed billions in overtime sums from as far back as 2008. It had filed a lawsuit in 2019 against the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of National Security, the Attorney General, and the Police Commissioner, seeking damages and several declarations, including whether the heads of agreement between the Federation and the government were binding and whether the police were entitled to constitutional relief. Consequently, the full court panel led by Justice David Batts this morning ruled that the 5 heads of agreements signed by the Federation and the Finance and the National Securities Ministries between 2008 and 2019 were binding and created a legitimate expectation among members of the police force. The full court judges, which also included Crescencia Brown Beckford and Tara Carr, also ordered the government to institute the system to capture the actual overtime hours for the police by March of next year. Under the heads of agreement, the government had agreed to pay the police a flat overtime fee of 10 hours, regardless of whether cops had done excess hours, until the system was put in place. The system should have been in place by the latest March 2010. Since the agreement, police personnel have been paid for the agreed 10 hours, but now a more structured system is to be implemented. The judges in their ruling this morning rejected a request from the Federation for damages. It was ruled that the payment for the additional 10 hours represents liquidated damages. The judge further agreed with the defendants that there was no scope for constitutional damages. Attorneys at law Jacqueline Samuels Brown QC and Keisha Spence represented the Federation, while Annalisa Lindsay and Matthew Gabidon represented the defendants. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.